Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe when you come in the door, please. Thank you. Welcome all back to the show. So before we get started, I want to make one thing very, very clear. This is not about whether Vivek Ramaswamy was right or wrong. Fucking around and finding out. This was about what happened after he became one of the most recognizable conservative voices talking about race in America. Then he received his nigga wake up call. So you guys see the thumbnail. This is about Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm going to refer to him as Vivek from here on out, right? So for years, Vivek argued that America was too focused on race, right? He criticized DEI programs, affirmative action programs. He argued that identity politics was dividing the country instead of bringing people together. Excuse me, I have a cold, guys. So a lot of conservatives agreed with him. Black conservatives sure did. And the phrase, judging people by the content of the character instead of the color of their skin, was supposed to be the word of the day. We saw Vivek differently. We believed, us Democrats believed, Vivek was minimizing systematic racism and dismissing problems that still exist here in this country. That's where this debate started. People argued over his ideas, over Vivek's ideas, his policies, over whether he understood race in America. Some of us thought he didn't understand. Then something changed when he started to become better known to the American people. The focus started to be less about what he was saying and more about his religion, his family, his ethnicity, and yes, his skin tone. By the time it came to a head, some of the loudest criticisms wasn't about his policies. It started to become about whether he was a real American or not. That's the timeline we're going to walk through today. Not through opinions and rumors, but through the moments that played out in public. Let's listen to what Vivek believed when he first started his campaign, before he first became publicly known. Let's listen. Hold on.
It creates division in our country. It tells you that if you're an individual, you're just on the tectonic plate of group identity, that you have no agency over your life, whether or not you're a member of an oppressed class or an oppressor group. That's what determines what you can achieve in life and increasingly what you're even allowed to think. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley summed it up when she said, we don't want any more black faces that don't want to be a black voice, that we don't want any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. What does that say? It equates the color of your skin, your race, with the content of ideas that you're allowed to have. That is wrong. It is anti-American, and it is fracturing our country to a breaking point. Here's the other thing it does, is it creates a culture of fear that replaces our culture of free speech. Because again, if your race goes from being about your skin color to being about your ideas, then any disagreement with those ideas automatically makes you a racist. And there is no greater damnation in modern America than to be called a racist.
Everything you just heard is the foundation of this story. If you don't understand what Vivek believed, you won't understand why the reaction to him became so strong. He wasn't trying to avoid controversy. He was challenging the way Americans think about race. Whether you agree with him or not, he was making the argument that was guaranteed to get a response, and he got a response, and that's exactly what happened to him. Let's look at one of the statements that put him right in the middle of that debate. Let's see.
You can
If I may just finish this,
how
if I may finish
Hold
that
on.
point,
deal with
Dasha,
racism.
I think I will be
but
better
you're
positioned.
denying that racism is a
I've never denied that racism is a problem. If you listen to the response I gave to that black pastor, my whole point is racism has been a major problem for most of our national history. But we're getting close to the promised land that Martin Luther King envisioned. We're as darn close to it as we ever have been. And so what bothers the heck out of me is it's right when we're close to that promised land. Martin Luther King said it, I may not get there with you, and he didn't get there with us. But I think it desecrates the legacy of our civil rights movement, desecrates the legacy of Martin Luther King, that right when we get closest to the point of having racial equality and gender equality and even opportunities for people of minorities of many types, are we perfect? No. But are we as close as we've ever been? Yes, we have. To then obsess over systemic racism, to then obsess over white guilt and otherwise, we're creating new waves of racism, Dasha, that we otherwise would have avoided right when we're closest to having achieved what even the proponents of the civil rights movement would have dreamed.
See, Vivek is trying to explain how people are starting to feel like white people are being oppressed. That's what he's trying to explain in that clip. You heard him explain his position in his own words. His argument was straightforward, right? He believed America had become too focused on race, that the country should judge people as individuals instead of putting them in racial groups. I believe that too. That message connected with a lot of conservatives. It also connected with many black conservatives who believed hard work, personal responsibility, and individual achievement should matter more than race. Those people spout those same talking points even now. You should believe hard work, personal responsibility, and individual achievement should matter more than race. Why exactly that is not true, I don't know. Why ain't that true? See, the message connected with a lot of conservatives because that's what they believe in public. That's not what they believe in private. It also connected with me. It also connected with some Democrats, but a lot of us Democrats and liberals seen it differently. We believe systematic racism is still a major issue in America. But from my perspective, Vivek wasn't offering any solutions to that. I believe he was dismissing black problems that we often we encounter every day. That's why his message sparked so much debate. People weren't arguing about whether Vivek was Indian, about his religion, about his family, or about his ideas. That was a focus. Could America move beyond race? Can they move beyond race? Or was America still dealing with problems that couldn't simply be ignored? Vivek didn't back away from that debate. He didn't. If anything, he became even more direct. Even more direct. Listen to this.
All right, so I want to start out with something you posted on Twitter, saying affirmative action is the single greatest form of institutional racism in America today. Why do you feel that way?
I think by definition, there are institutions that regularly take race into account as a factor on whether or not someone gets a job or whether or not someone gets a seat in college. By definition, that's institutionalized racism. And I think the Supreme Court made the right decision today to vote on the side of meritocracy over race-based preferences. I think that's a step forward. It's not a destination.
After hearing that, it's easy to understand why people have strong opinions about Vivek, specifically black people. Supporters believed he was challenging the ideas that had divided this country for years. Critics believe he was ignoring the reality of systematic racism. I think he was ignoring the reality of systematic racism. Whether you agree with him or not, the debate was still about what he believed. Then the conversation happened that changed everything. The conversation that checked this Indian motherfucker. Excuse my French. You got your nigga wake up call, Vivek Ramaswamy, and this white girl gave it to you. Let me show it to you. This is when Vivek Ramaswamy understood what the hell I had been saying to him all along.
You are so bright and articulate, and I guess I can call you articulate since you're not an American black. Can't say that about them. That's derogatory.
And that was a great opening segment. Lots of things to talk about there. Oh, and I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president. But I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian. We'll get back to that.
You see that wake-up call? You see that wake-up call? Knock, knock, knock. You see that wake-up call that white girl gave to Vivek Ramaswamy? Everything changed for Vivek after that interview, when it stopped being about his ideas. This is that video changed his whole progression in the Republican Party, because she knew exactly what was going to happen if she said what she said, when she did what she did, because she's one of the leading Republican commentators, pundits, whatever you want to. She's one of the leading ones, and people follow behind her. Most of y'all followed us anyway, so you're going to follow somebody. But they followed her. And the people that followed her said, yeah, girl. He an Indian. That's why I don't want to vote for him. Yeah. Many, many, many of them thought the way she thought. She just spoke it out loud. That interview changed the whole conversation for him. Up until then, most of the criticism, as I said, was about his ideas and what he believed. People challenged his views on race. They challenged his position on affirmative action. They challenged DEI, according to him. Ann Coulter did something different. She said she agreed with much of what he stood for, but she still wouldn't vote for him because he was Indian. That wasn't a disagreement over policy. It was about his identity. Whether you agree with Ann Coulter or not, that interview forced people to ask a different question. Would some voters ever fully accept Vivek no matter what he believed? Me, having been on this planet 60 years, knew the answer even before it would have been asked. See, racists try to say it's our culture. They try to say it's the way we behave. But I know the truth. It will always be about the skin tone. It will always be about the fact that people think they're better than darker skin tone people. Because you have to just go back to 1950 and 60. People keep saying, hey, it was a better time. Y'all had jobs. Y'all had mamas and daddies in the house. Y'all had all this and that and this and that. But then still, but you motherfuckers still wanted to hang us. You motherfuckers still didn't want us to eat at your countertops, at your stores, at your restaurants. We've still denied housing. We've still denied access to funds and loans. So if we got that shitty treatment back then and we had a better community as Black folk, then how was it about our culture when we didn't have the degenerate culture that we got, or part of the degenerate culture that we got now? So we didn't have all this internet twerking and all that now, and y'all still hated us. So it wasn't about our culture. When I hear people say, oh, it's about y'all culture, that's why we don't like y'all, it's about what y'all do, we don't like it. No, you're a liar. It will always be about our skin tone, because we had all of the things that you all had, or we were beginning to get all the things you had. We had less poverty. We had more poverty, but now we have less poverty. But we had more control, no internet, no twerking, no shooting, murder, and all that. It was a better time back then, and you still hated us. So it's not about our culture. It's about skin tone. Okay? So as time went on, that question for Vivek Ramaswamy didn't go away. It showed up again and again in different ways for Vivek. People weren't just talking about his speeches anymore. They were talking about his background, his culture, his religion. Every small, everyday things became a part of the discussion. One example came when Vivek took off his shoes before going into somebody's house or something like that. For many families, that's a normal sign of respect. But online, people turned it into something much more. They just couldn't stand the fact that he walked into the house and he didn't have his shoes on. Look at this. You notice that he don't have no shoes on in this interview. He was having an interview and he took his shoes off. Okay, so he had backlash after an old interview when he didn't have his shoes on. So it became about him personally, everything about him. Make an excuse for everything about him instead of looking at his policies, instead of looking at his ideas. Let's make it about his race. Let's make it about his culture. Let's make it about his family. Taking off your shoes before entering somebody's home has nothing to do with politics, but that's not how everybody sees it. For some people, it became another reason to question whether Vivek was different. By now, the criticism wasn't just about what he believed. People were paying attention to who he was. Then it became even more personal. He posted a pic celebrating his marriage, his anniversary. It wasn't a campaign event. It wasn't a political speech. It was a husband celebrating his wife. The reaction showed that for some people, the focus had moved beyond his politics, and they attacked this man's wife.
Well, Indian origin Republican leader Vivek Ramaswamy is being viciously trolled as he made a long anniversary post for his wife, Dr. Apurva, taking a journey down memory lane about how they met each other, proposed, and got married. However, amid growing tensions around the H-1B visa program in the US, this post was met with a series of racist and anti-immigrant comments from users on X. Vishal, Vivek has been tracking the finer developments for us. He joins us live at the moment. Vishal, we're seeing some very vicious comments coming, people questioning Mr. Ramaswamy's wife's name, etc. Take us through the details.
Well, this was supposed to be a sweet post dedicated from a husband to his wife. So he had posted two photographs back from 2011 when he first met his wife, and then when they were celebrating their 10th year anniversary. So this post was supposed to be a gesture. This turned out to be a backlash at the hands of ex-users, some racist ex-users that openly said that they need to go back to India.
Yeah, they talked about him bad. That post wasn't about race. It wasn't about immigration either. It wasn't about public policy. It was about his family. And they were telling him to go back to India. Your feet dirty, your knees dirty. Y'all like to eat crap. Y'all like to eat shit. Y'all like to eat with y'all hands. That's what some of those posts were saying. Yet some of the sponsors told Vivek and his wife, you don't belong here in the United States. You need to go back to India. And they questioned whether they belonged in this country. At that point, the criticism had clearly moved beyond his political views. His family had become part of the target. The next incident showed it wasn't happening only online. It also happened right in his damn face. He got that ugly nigga wake up call. This was the ugly one. This one I really knew you burned up, bro.
Jesus Christ is God, and there's no other God. He is part of the Holy Trinity, and any other God is a demon, and it's false. How can you represent the constituents of Ohio who are 64% Christian if you are not a part of that faith? If you are an Indian, a Hindu, coming from a different culture, different religion than those who founded this country, those who grew this country, built this country, made this country the beautiful thing that it is today, what are you conserving? You are bringing change. I'll be 100% honest with you. Christianity is the one truth.
Christian voices should be the main voice of America, and I want to know basically why you seem to be, and I don't mean to be horribly offensive, but why you seem to be masquerading as a Christian.
Familiar with the Ten Commandments? You call yourself a Hindu, but you also call yourself Christian. I don't call myself Christian. I call myself a Hindu. I'm not running to be pastor of Ohio. I'm running to be governor of Ohio, and I didn't run to be pastor of America. I ran to be president of the United States of America. What's your faith? I'm a Christian. Follower of Jesus. Great. Do you believe in the Holy Trinity? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit? I think a lot of people here do. So. Good. And that doesn't make you a polytheist, does it?
Probably not, no. Great. And so in my faith, I believe there's one true God.
Right.
He resides in all of us, and he appears in different forms, but it's one true God. So I'm an ethical monotheist. That's the way I would describe my faith.
They let him know that he wasn't welcome there. They let him know. You're trying to masquerade as a Christian. You're trying to masquerade. We don't know whether we can accept you in Ohio, seeing as how you ain't a Christian. Really, you ain't white. By this point, Vivek Ramaswamy should have known there was a pattern going on about him. Just go over to X and see what kind of comments he get for any kind of post that he put up. But there's a pattern. This wasn't just one interview. Ann Coulter told him to his face, they ain't gonna never accept you because you're an Indian. The little young white boy, the one with shaved head. You're not a Christian. How can you lead a Christian country and you're a Muslim? How can you do that? And the lady said, I don't want to be horribly offensive, but why are you pretending to be a Christian? Or somebody said he was pretending to be a Christian. This just wasn't one social media post or an interview or just one person. This criticism had grown beyond Vivek's ideas. More and more it's become about Vivek himself. Let's see how the Ohio race plays itself out. Other people question his religion. Other people question whether someone with his background should ever be president. Whether those voices represented a small group or a larger group, they were becoming harder to ignore. And then came one of the most direct moments of the entire campaign. Not from a Democrat, not from a political commentator, not from somebody protesting outside a rally. It came from a pastor speaking. This, what I don't understand, how y'all call yourself Christian, and this is the kind of leader y'all have as a Christian. How y'all call yourself religious or God-fearing, and y'all have this kind of person walking around representing you Christians. I don't understand what's going on. This is the wake-up call for real. It came from a pastor speaking in front of a conservative audience, and he said this.
If he becomes the governor of Ohio, you have solidified Vivek's political career for the rest of his life in America. He's not going away.
Exactly.
This is the chance to say, no, never, ever go back home. Get out of our country. You were born in America, sure, by days. Your dad hates our country, never took the time to become a citizen. You're an anchor baby. Your family built their wealth by robbing white people with miracle drugs that you knew were not going to be viable. You became a billionaire. You paid your way onto every podcast. You've been lying. You've been deceiving. And this is not American. You are not American. You are a Hindu. You are a polytheist. You are a false idol worshiper. Go home. Get out of our country. I don't care about you quoting Thomas Jefferson. I don't care about you pretending to honor the founders. This is America. We wear shoes in this country. We eat beef in this country. We worship Christ exclusively in this country. We don't rob people of their wealth in this country. Get the hell out.
There ain't much that you need to change in that video. There ain't too much to interpret there. The message was clear. The criticism wasn't about the taxes, wasn't about immigration, ain't about DEI, ain't about affirmative action. This was all about Vivek and his whole person, his whole personhood. For somebody who has spent years arguing that Americans should stop judging people by race, Vivek was in a shitty position to be judged by his race. After months of headlines, interviews, and personal attacks, and he's been taking those personal attacks for the past couple of months and maybe even a year or so, Vivek made another decision. He announced he was leaving social media. He said, I got to go. These people are unhinged. They threatening my family.
Says he's never heard a single bigoted remark. Far-right activist Nick Fuentes, who is a frequent critic of Ramaswamy, appeared to take some credit for some of those comments. He posted a screenshot of the article on X and declared, quote, We bullied Vivek off Twitter. Others accused Ramaswamy of hypocrisy, citing this post from just a couple of weeks ago, where he said, quote, "If you're scared of your comments section, you're not fit to lead."
I've got a lot of thoughts on this. So I agree with him in part and disagree in part.
Okay.
I think where I disagree with him is, I mean, it does look a little like, yeah, social media is bad for you. You should get off it. Man, you were a big social media force. And you loved social media when you were mostly getting favorable engagement. But now you started saying things. Vivek is in line with me in a lot of ways on high-skilled immigration. He's very supportive of high-skilled immigration. And a lot of MAGA is not. And he gets a lot of negative feedback from those people. And he doesn't like it. So now that you're saying things your audience doesn't like, now all of a sudden social media is unhealthy. Well, you thought it was perfectly fine before. It's more speaking that you're out of touch with what people who follow you and pay attention to you are thinking.
See, that didn't end the debate over Vivek Ramaswamy, but it did mark the end of that chapter of him believing that racism didn't exist, because he tried to convince me that racism don't exist in this country, that racism is just something that's way down there. Vivek Ramaswamy, that's all he was doing, was presenting his ideas for the country in Ohio, wanting to run for governor in Ohio. And all of a sudden, he was the target of these racial attacks. He tried to convince me that race didn't matter in the United States. I said, brother, you darker than me. Stop playing. Stop playing. And that's all they're doing is attacking you personally. And you don't see that that's racism, that the racism is playing a part in all of that? The argument started about the story started about arguments of about your ideas. Then it ended with arguments over your identity. Whether you agree with whether somebody agree with you or not, dude, we just saw in real time the way they checked your ass about whether you belonged here or you didn't. Okay, we seen the timeline. We know you got on you got on the platform, the public platform, talking about race didn't matter, talking about the world is not racist. Black people just want to be victims. Black people just it ain't true. They ain't trying to be racist. And then you end up getting your ass handed to you on Twitter, getting your ass handed to you at TPU SA. We started this conversation about talking about race. Vivek did. He argued that America spent too much time dividing people by race instead of treating them as individuals. It's not us dark-skinned people that are doing it. It's white people that keep it going. Because every time a person that's black gets into the public eye or anywhere, it's always about trying to downgrade them in any way, shape, or form. And don't give me the bullshit about our culture, because I know that's not why. It's all about our skin tone. Okay? A lot of people agreed with him. A lot of black conservatives. No, it ain't about y'all race. It's about your culture. It's about the thing y'all do. It's about that. No, we were doing the same thing in the 1960s, except we had intact families. We had jobs. We were doing all the right things. There wasn't a twerking on TV. It wasn't none of that stuff. And you still treated us like shit back then. So it's not about what the fuck our culture was like. It never was. It's always been about the skin tone. Okay? When you disagree with him about his politics or about what he believes, that's politics. But somewhere along the way, the debate became something about him personally. Because he's a dark-skinned Indian. People stopped talking about his ideas. They started talking about his ethnicity, his religion, his culture, his family, his wife. Those are two different conversations. You can disagree with somebody's policies. You can disagree about their view on race. You can disagree with the way they see America. That's part of politics. Questioning whether somebody belongs here because of who they are and who their skin tone is something completely different. Whether you believe Vivek was right or wrong, you now seen why his campaign became one of the most talked about campaigns in the country. Because he looked like a goofy. I'm telling you, Vivek Ramaswamy, you look like a goofy out there talking about race didn't matter. And the white folks showed you that it did. Other people saw him as somebody who didn't understand the problems they believed still existed, mostly as Democrats. That's why his campaign drew so much attention. Over the course of his campaign, Vivek learned something a lot of Americans don't want to admit. He found out that racism in America didn't disappear. White people won't let it disappear. It just went undercover till a man, a degenerate like Donald Trump, made it okay for all the degenerates who are racist to come out of the dark and into the light. Vivek discovered that being a successful conservative Republican didn't shield him from MAGA, who still saw him as the Indian guy, the black guy. For some people, he could agree with them on almost every issue, except he was brown. And Vivek got taught that lesson in real time. Over this past year, they've been checking his ass every time he tried to step out of line like he was better. You ain't better. They just hide it well from you. At the same time, he also learned that criticism isn't always racism. That's true. That's true. He got shitty ideas. Even if he was an Indian, I would still believe he had shitty ideas. Okay? We oppose his policies. Some people oppose his personality. But there were also moments when the attacks were clearly about his race, his ethnicity, and whether somebody like him could ever represent true America because he's a Muslim. And most Americans have this blatant thing about Muslims. That's the lesson I take away from this story. America has made tremendous progress, but prejudice and racism did not disappear. White people won't let it disappear. It changed into something subtle and manifested itself into racism, which is very obvious today. Vivek wanted us black people to ignore that and stop talking about it. But it needs to be shamed into the light, hung out there around people's necks like a diamond necklace, so the world that got decent people in it will drive it back into the dark like it should be. Vivek Ramaswamy entered this race believing America had moved beyond race. Ha ha, psych, psych. He argued that Americans should stop seeing each other as racial groups and start seeing each other simply as Americans. I would love that to happen. I would love that. But white people don't want it that way. They want to have the upper hand. They want to be superior. They want to have white supremacy. They want to be in charge. As long as they want those 4 or 5 things, we will never get beyond race. So Vivek rejected identity politics and insisted that merit, character, and personal responsibility should matter more than skin tone. No, it doesn't. Not to white people, it don't. And Vivek Ramaswamy found that out. Then his campaign tested that belief. His campaign tested the belief. They tested it. He got that head busted to the white meat at that TP USA forum. Got his head busted to the white meat. The more visible he became, the less some people talked about his ideas and more they talked about who he was. He wasn't just called conservative. He was called the Indian candidate. He wasn't just criticized for his policies. People questioned whether somebody with his name, his ethnicity, or his Hindu faith could represent American values. That's a different argument. You don't have to agree with a single thing Vivek Ramaswamy believes to recognize the difference between attacking a person's ideas and attacking their identity. Criticize his policies, challenge his arguments, reject his vision for the country if you want to. But once the conversation becomes he doesn't belong here because he's an Indian, he isn't really American because of his religion, we have stopped debating ideas and started judging people. To me, that's the real story of this campaign. It wasn't simply about whether Vivek was right or wrong. It was about whether America has moved as far beyond race as many of us like to believe. And no, we have not. After everything you've seen, I think we can safely say the answer is we are not moved past that. The reasons are fairly simple, and we can discuss it at a later time when most of y'all already understand and heard it before. But this is the turning point. This was his turning point, and we cannot stress enough. that he received all the talking points he needed. All the talking points he needed when he went on stage with this woman right here.
Too am a fan of yours. I'm going to make a point of disagreeing with you so that it will be fun.
Yeah.
You are so bright and articulate, and I guess I can call you articulate since you're not an American black. Can't say that about them. That's derogatory. And that was
you notice the smile on his face. You notice the smile on his face. Like, yeah, she ain't talking about me. She talking about them black folk. She ain't talking about me. Look at the smile on his face. Oh, yeah. Yeah, get at them black folk. Get at them black folk. Tell them black folk about themselves. Get at them. See the smile on his face? Listen to her and see the smile on his face. Watch his face.
The great opening segment. Lots of things to talk about there. Oh, and I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president. But I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian. We'll get back to that.
That shit is wild. That's got to be one of the wildest statements ever to be said on TV to somebody's face. To somebody's face. That was the knock on the door, Vivek Ramaswamy. That was your nigga wake-up call. That was your nigga wake-up call. And now you understand that everything that you have been saying is not true. No, it ain't racist. We ain't got racist people in the country. They ain't racist. They can get past race. No, they can't. White people can't get past race. They just can't. As long as those 4 or 5 things that I listed are true, they ain't never gonna get past race. But you got to start shaming those folks into the corner. You got to start shaming those folks back into the dark. Okay? Otherwise, we just going to continue to have the problems that we having. As long as that attitude consists or persists, we're going to have the same results. Please, thank you for listening to my commentary. Let me look in the chat. Let me look at some of the chat. Let's listen. Hi, you. How you doing? How you doing? Dirty Hindu Indian bastard. Listen to this. Dirty Hindu Indian bastard. Us black Americans hate Hindus and Indians. That's why Kamala would never be president. Conservatives use free speech to spread fear. Of course they do. Yes, Q, we believe in that, but you have never heard a black person pump up this Indian Hindu person. Point him out. Give me a name so I can go see. His name is Vivek Ramaswamy. And these brothers are delusional. Byron Donaldson and Tim Scott. Yes, they are. Ann Coulter is stone cold racist. Yes, she is. And she don't hide it. Okay. I only lose people like you that are on the right, Black America. The rest of us understand exactly what happened to Vivek Ramaswamy. Taking off your shoes before you enter someone's home is not non-American. People from foreign countries do that. Yeah. But he's a very polite person. Oh, you're talking about his wife, the one that damn near said death to America. Oh, we got it. Wow. So where's the lie at? So where's what lie at? It ain't no lie. Everything I told was the truth. No, this is America. We only like Christian people over here. So what is wrong with what he said? Nothing wrong with what he said. Racism exists from black people. No, black people can be prejudiced and bigoted, not racist. Blacks are the biggest. No, white people, y'all the biggest racists. Y'all just don't recognize it in yourself. Crump is more literate than you. Yes, he is. Absolutely. Absolutely. Crump is more literate than me. Absolutely. He's a lawyer. The number one cause of death for young Black American blacks on black homicide for decades. I wish more people had the passion for that. Yeah, we all have the passion for that. I don't understand why y'all would think we didn't have the passion for that. I don't understand why y'all would think we wouldn't have any kind of pushback for that kind of thing. Y'all make it seem like, oh, black people just be killing people in the neighborhoods and y'all don't care. There'd be marches, protests, all kinds of stuff. Y'all wild. No, it's culture. Yeah, sure, it's culture. Yeah, sure. We had the same culture back in the 1960s and 70s. We had the same. No, I'm sorry. We didn't have the same culture back in the 1960s and 70s. And we were hated back in the 1950s and 40s and 30s. We were hated back then too. but we had a better culture. We had more families intact. We were married at 80%. So how do you explain it? We had all the good things going for us in the 50s. Now we have all these things y'all could consider bad things going in 2020, and yet we still hate it back then and we hate it back here. Ain't got nothing to do with our culture. Has to do with our color, skin color. Goofy. Let me see. What else? Did I move it? Oh, okay. Long live Donald Trump. Okay, and let's see it. Let's see it. Donald Trump, to make it, the Grim Reaper is coming. So hopefully it comes before the end of the year. That'd be amazing. Okay. His wife is no, she didn't say death to America. His wife never said that. Racism exists among black people. Yes. Crumpet. Okay, I got you. Now it's color. No, we know it's color. Before drugs flooded black neighborhoods, was the number one cause homicide? No. Funny how now they don't think they need him, but they do him bad. I hope he remember. Oh, he ain't gonna remember because he wants the close proximity to whiteness. Shut this B up. No, ain't nobody shutting this B up. You're dumb, and you need to be quiet. Take your name down so somebody can look him up because he sounds crazy. We are. Anne has huge apple. Adam, y'all, wow. Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Here we go again. Here we go. Another black woman playing victim. Sure. Where did I play victim at? I'm confused. Y'all need to learn y'all talking points. Talking points don't belong in this presentation. Talking points like that don't belong here. You're goofy. We're talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. What does that have to do with me playing the victim? I don't recall me playing the victim. I recall me talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. Goofy. She cut them eyes hard and delivered. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. She knew what she was saying when she started to say it. Yes, she did. Most whites never bring up race. Yes, they do. They always bring up race. You always bring up race. You always do. It's always black people who pointed out to y'all that that's what it is that y'all doing. But y'all always bring up race. It's always you guys. Always. It's never about, we're always reacting. When you react, you think we're reacting. Oh, why y'all doing that? Why y'all asking about race? Why y'all feel like that? Because it's called a microaggression, retard. Okay, Black America. It's not a nigga wake up call because yes, it is a nigga wake up call because he's a nigga. Okay, same thing, just different continent. No, the fuck you don't. Motown was ran by Jews. Oh my God. Lady, you're absolutely a racist. Of course I'm a racist. Of course. To a person who doesn't want to hear about race, I'm a racist. Of course. That can't help but mention color. I can't help it. I can't help it. Some of y'all low IQ. I can't help it. You don't understand what I'm talking about. You don't understand the gray area. You only understand black and white. I get it. You're talking about nothing but race. You are the race. Of course, that's all I'm talking about is race. That's all I'm talking about. If you didn't get the program, here's the program. Vivek Ramaswamy thought that he could go through life without people pointing out his race. I gave you the timeline when people started to talk to him about his race. That's when he got his nigga wake-up call. When people started talking to him about race. Because all he was talking about was, oh no, the world is not racist. There's no thing. Everybody looks at our content of our character. They don't look at race. Yes, they do. White folks attacked Ramaswamy for no reason. It wasn't about his policies. It was all about him personally. That was about his race, his ethnicity, his culture. They went after all of that. Had nothing to do with his politics. And that was all white people. So stop it. You all bring up race. So please hit the like and subscribe button if you like the content. I will be back sometime this weekend. I don't know whether I will or I won't. Hopefully I'll be back this weekend. If not, I'll be back at Monday morning. And I will see you in the next video. I appreciate all of you showing up. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate